Okay, what if I told you that you, yes, you right now, are a work of art? Today we're going to dive into a pretty radical idea, one that completely flips our entire understanding of art on its head, redefining what it is, where we find it, and believe it or not, why it's absolutely essential for democracy itself.
So let's just jump right in with the question. Is art really only for the rich and the educated? I mean, when you hear the word art, what's the first thing that pops into your head? A super quiet museum? Maybe an auction house with these insane, unbelievable prices? Yeah, for a lot of us, art can feel, I don't know, a bit distant, kind of exclusive.
And, there's a reason for that. It's because, traditionally, we've put art way up on this pedestal. So let's take a second and explore this common viewpoint.
A really common way to think about this is with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've probably seen this pyramid before. And look where art is. It's way, way up at the very top, under self-actualization. It's basically treated like a total luxury. It's something you only get to after all your basic needs, food, shelter, safety, are totally met. It's like the final prize in the game, which means it's really only for a select few.
Okay, but what if that entire pyramid is just wrong? What if the very foundation of it is flawed? What if we've been looking at this whole thing completely backwards?
What if the most essential, the most vital, the most profoundly human form of art has been right in front of our faces this whole time, that it's already all around us, in every single person we see? And that right there, that brings us to the truly radical idea at the very heart of the source material we're digging into today.
So check this out. This slide really breaks down the massive shift in thinking. On the left, you've got the old formula from the poet Arno Holz. Art equals nature minus X. The whole point was for the artist to take themselves out of the equation, to remove their subjective influence. But this new proposition, it flips that completely. The new formula is simple. Human equals art. The person isn't subtracted from the equation anymore. The human is the art.
Okay, so what does that actually mean in practice? How does that work in the real world? Let's define this new term, discursive art.
So what in the world is discursive art? Well, think of it this way. It's a form of art where the masterpiece isn't an object. It's not a painting or a sculpture. The masterpiece is the democratic conversation itself. The debate, the discussion, the argument about who or what even gets to be called art, that is the creative act. The art is the discourse. And since everyone can participate, art becomes fundamentally democratic.
So let's really dig into that idea, into the power of this discourse. Because this is where things get really interesting. It's about shifting our focus from some finished product on a wall to the living, breathing, sometimes messy process of discussion and debate. That's the engine of this whole idea. And this whole process works on two different levels. First, you've got the inner discourse. That's all happening inside your own head. It's your personal reflection. It's you looking at another person and just asking yourself, why might they be a work of art? Then there's the public discourse. That's when we take those internal thoughts and bring them out into the open. It becomes a societal debate, an exchange of arguments, a shared exploration of ideas.
And what's driving both of those levels, the inner and the public? It's one constant but really powerful question. Why is this person art? That single question is the engine of the entire artistic process.
Now look, this is not a simple or comfortable process. Let's be real. The source material is very clear that this idea can be exploited and will cause outrage. But then you have to ask, hasn't that always been one of the functions of powerful art? It's supposed to force us into these important, often difficult conversations. It creates the kind of controversies that we, as a society, have to endure if we want to grow.
And this all connects to something so much bigger. As the source material puts it, discourse is the method of democracy. I mean, think about that for a second. When we're debating what art is, we're not just talking about paintings. We are literally practicing, exercising the core muscle of a healthy democracy.
So what? Why does any of this actually matter? What are the real-world consequences of thinking this way?
Well, the implications are actually profound. Art shifts from being a passive object to an active democratic practice. Our entire idea of art and education can be totally reimagined, and we start to see art not as some nice-to-have hobby, but as something absolutely essential for human development.
So let's go back to that pyramid from the beginning. This visual really says it all, doesn't it? It shows the complete change in perspective. Art is no longer the luxury item at the top. Nope, it moves all the way down to the very foundation. It becomes a basic human need, right there alongside breathing, eating, and sleeping.
The source frames it as a deficit need. Just like hunger, it's a fundamental need that has to be satisfied. And by viewing every person as potential art, this need can be met without requiring wealth or security. Once that basic deficit need is fulfilled, then we can access art as a growth need.
So, we're left with a challenge, really. If art is truly a democratic discourse, and every single person is a potential masterpiece just waiting to be discussed, what conversation will you start?